Hey everybody, Hillary Raven Porter here from Sacred Starseed Healing, Astral Shaman and Tamiana Starseed Healer, helping you and guiding you to find your frequency, find your truth. And so today we want to talk about that frequency in relation to supplements. So I realized recently how passionate I actually am in regards to additives, reading ingredients, knowing what I'm putting in my body. And that comes from a lot of things. It comes from my training as a Western herbalist and as an acupuncturist when I was getting my acupuncture diploma. It also comes from experience of what I was putting in my body and then noticing and being conscious of, oh, this is actually creating this. But what is this thing? And if you followed along and you've watched me before, you'll understand this light language that's coming through. It comes when I'm activated, comes when I'm sharing things, comes when I'm transmitting all the things that are happening, right? So today I want to talk about something that came up last week in regards to supplements. So one of the things that I do for people and with people, when it's called in, it's not this isn't every time, because you're not a cookie cutter, right? You're not the exact same as the other person. So it depends on what's needed for you. But I do know that a lot of us, if we open our cupboard doors, we're like, so many supplements, right? We're looking for that panacea. We're looking for that, this will fix me, or this will be that thing, even if it's a subconscious, even if it's in the background, right? And so we grab these things and we start taking them, or we take them for a little while and then we forget about them, or we just keep adding and adding and adding, and we become polysupplementational, which is kind of like polypharmacy, which just means you're taking medication after medication after medication after medication, and they're stacking on top of each other, often not to the benefit of the person that's taking them, because they're not all needed, or they're confusing the body, right? So I work with people as part of the full spectrum services that I offer, and we'll take a look at your supplements, right? We'll take a look at, I just had a client bring in literally a bag full of probably like 20, 25 supplements. And we went through every single one. We look at the intention of why you started taking it or why you picked it up. We look at, are there overlaps? Is there a 5 mushroom blend in this thing and then also a 5 mushroom blend in this thing? Do you need both? Is there turmeric here, and turmeric here as pieces of other things, right? Because they're compound, and you can have too much of a good thing. You can also have too much of a bad thing, which we're going to be talking about here a little bit, about hypromellulose. So we look at those things. We do some frequency testing to see what your body actually wants. And if it doesn't want this product, is it this product from this brand? So let's say magnesium. Magnesium is a very common one. Let's say it's magnesium. Is it the magnesium from this brand that your body doesn't want? Is it the magnesium that your body's like, no, thank you, I don't need it right now? Or is it, I need this, but only in this much of a dose? Or I don't need this, not because I don't need the magnesium, but it's the additives, the non-medicinal pieces, right? The inactive, misnomer, because they may be not medicinal, but they're still impacting your body, because what you put in your body becomes your body. The food you put in, the air that you breathe, the water that you drink, your body has to process it, and it becomes part of that cellular memory. Even if it's not part of the physical cellular structure, you're energetically taking in whatever that is. And this includes with our supplements, and we don't really think about this. So yeah, so we go through all of these things to narrow it down and to be like, yeah, here, take these things for a little while. And this now isn't a forever. We always have to remember that. Even the food we eat now isn't a forever. If you get sick, do you change your food? Yes, you change your food. And it's just for a short period of time. If it's a chronic illness, it might be a longer period of time. If it's something like celiac, it might be a forever, right? So what came up during this supplement review this past week was a product, an inactive product that I don't know if I've seen it before. I might have, and it's just now popping up and being like, oh, hello, because it was in multiple of these supplements. And when something pops up, I get curious. When it pops up multiple times, I get very curious. And I'm not just going to go, for me, this is It's been my whole life. I'm not like, oh, I don't know what that is. It's fine. I'm like, what is this thing? And I'm checking stuff out and I'm doing the research, figuring out what it is, where does it come from, how is it processed, and how does it impact our body? Right? This is that awakened consciousness that happens as we are becoming more conscious. It's no longer okay for us. It no longer feels okay for us to be like, oh, that's fine. I'll just do it. Because we know how it's going to impact us, or that it likely will impact us, right? So this ingredient, I've got my little notes here, is hypromellulose. You may know it as E464. Now, not all E number, whatever the number is, ingredients are bad. It might be baking soda, it might be baking powder, it might be, I can't even think of another one right now that I feel safe with. But they're not all bad, but they're not necessarily good either. What it means is that there's a restriction, a maximum amount that's allowed each day. But can you tell me the last time you looked at how much E464 you had in all of your ingredients or all of your food throughout the day? So you might be going over the maximum, and that's with anything. That could be with herbs, that could be with multivitamins, right? That can be with supplements. Like I said, do you have 5 mushroom blend here, here, and here in those 3 ingredients? Do you really need all 3? Is it becoming too much? Is your body like, this is excessive, but you're not necessarily knowing where that's coming from, right? Think about when the soy boom hit. And everybody's like, soy is the panacea for vegans, right? But then it was in everything. And so you're eating an excess of one thing throughout the day, but not really considering that because of you're just like eating that one thing. And then you might be eating something later, but maybe it's not, this is a soy product, this is tofu and soy milk, but it's soy added into something, right? Same when it comes to our supplementation. So hypromellulose. So cellulose has become a thing, right? What is that one? Oh my goodness, I can't even remember right now. It starts with an M, but it's a plant cellulose. So plant cellulose has become used for fiber, used as a binder, all of these other things. So you'll see a lot of these cellulose things or allulose. So this is hypromellulose. So it's not even a cellulose anymore because it's been altered so much. And these aren't always a good thing. Often there's wood fiber. So you'll see this in some breads, especially gluten-free breads. And I'm trying not to pinpoint certain brands, but there's certain, yeah, it's in there and it's as a fiber, it's as a bulker, right? It helps it helps you stay fuller longer. You feel fuller longer. But we're talking wood pulp derivative. We're talking cotton derivative. These fibers come from these places, right? Which aren't necessarily digestible. So hypromellulose, also known as hydroxypropyl methylcellulose, or HPMC. So these are things to be looking for when you're looking at your ingredients. And I highly support reading the ingredients of the products that you're getting, even if it's a product that you're using regularly. Things can change, right? You might be like, oh no, this product's fine, I've been using it for years. But then you read it and you're like, oh, I didn't realize that was in there now. MSG is a big one. A couple of my favorite products years ago. And then all of a sudden I read the ingredients. I'm like, you weren't in there before. No wonder I felt weird after I ate you last time, right? So HPMC, hydroxypropyl methylcellulose, hypromellulose, or E464. So this is also part of being conscious and just being curious and then being like, oh, it could be called this, it could be called this, it could be called this, because there's so many different things and ways that they can label these things now. Okay, so this is produced from cellulose. So this is produced from a natural polymer, a fiber, plant-based, right? Derived from. So this is like natural flavor. When you see natural flavor, it might start out as cinnamon, but then all the toxic processes that they've done to take it from cinnamon to natural flavor cinnamon makes it toxic. But because it started out as cinnamon, they can say natural flavor, right? So it starts out as HPMC, the hypromellulose starts out as a natural fiber and polymer, but then they manufacture it And they use these highly volatile processes and substances, right, to synthetically alter the cellulose. Okay. So toxic, harmful, reactive substances. Natural to, hi, we've hyperprocessed it with toxic stuff to give you this hypromellulose. Okay. What are two of the highly toxic substances that they use to process this hypromellulose, this cellulose to hypromellulose? One of them is propylene glycol. So propylene glycol is acutely toxic and carcinogenic. Want to know what it's used to process? It's used to manufacture foam. That's one of the things that it's used for, foam. We're not talking natural foam. We're talking like that squishy toxic foam that off gases forever, right? Exposure to this can cause headaches, dizziness, lightheadedness, and skin allergies. So again, we're talking, they say on these are coming from the toxic sheets, you know, they have to have the information sheets for toxic products. This comes from that. This comes from what they tell us this thing can do. This isn't made up stuff. This is the stuff that they have to have on site of this is how it's toxic. This is how you help it, right? And we're talking, they say in large doses, there's certain parts per million and stuff that they're recommending will cause, or they're saying will cause the headaches and dizziness and all of that stuff. But again, how much are you getting of something? And even if something isn't causing a major headache and major dizziness because you're not having it at this whatever parts per million they say creates this, what if you have a high toxic load already? This causes inflammation. And I'm sorry, even if I didn't have a high toxic load, I don't want this stuff in my body. But let's keep talking about this. So that's the propylene oxide. Another major one that they use to process this hypromellulose is chloromethane. Chloromethane just doesn't sound good. It sounds kind of like chlorophyll, but chlorophyll's good. So what's that other one? The one that they put over your nose and you get knocked out, right? Chloroform. There we go. So chloromethane is mainly used to manufacture silicone. It metabolizes. One thing it metabolizes into is formaldehyde in our body. Not good. What are some of the other uses for chloromethane other than to process cellulose to hypromellulose? As a propellant in foam production, again, going back to that toxic foam, solvent in rubber manufacturing, and petroleum refining. Okay, so it's a solvent, so it's helping dissolve and smooth out, make things a little more flowy here in rubber and petroleum. That's how strong it is. Now, again, here we go. What are some of the side effects? They say in high doses. I'm sorry, I don't even want this in these aren't food products. So why do I want them in the things I'm ingesting? I don't. Consciousness. So it affects the brain and nervous system, and they say in large amounts, okay? Dizziness, headache, difficulty speaking, loss of consciousness, even to the level of coma. We're talking large amounts for that, right? But I'm just giving you all the data here. Large amounts can also lead to liver, kidney problems and affect the heart rate and blood pressure. A lot of these things, if we consider how long have these actually been in our food products or in things that have been ingested, so we don't actually know what they're doing to us down the road. Now, these are two of the products that are used to process, again, the cellulose to the hypromellulose. These toxic substances then need to be removed and disposed of after production. I couldn't find out how they did this. So what are they using to remove? Is it another toxic substance that they're using to remove this? And what residue is left over? And what parts per million of residue is allowed to be left over? Just the same thing as like a certain part per million of like rat poops allowed in certain things and like bug pieces and stuff like that, right? So what is the level for this that's allowed to be left in the hypromellulose? Right? Yeah. So, this isn't meant to scare you. This isn't meant to be like, be afraid of everything that's out there. It's meant to awaken your consciousness. It's meant to just inform you of recognition of some of these things that are out there. And I realized I was passionate about this. I didn't realize I was passionate about this because it has just become my norm to look into question and to be curious. But then when I see how much I talk with people about it and the aha moments that come from people, and they're like, oh, and when we remove some of these things, that low level of inflammation that constantly has kept them feeling unwell, of I don't know what's actually going on in my body. I can't seem to get to this place of I feel better. Nothing shows up on the blood work, nothing shows up with my doctor because it's not detectable, but it's a low level of constant inflammation causing you to feel, I don't know what's going on. I just feel gross, or things keep kicking up. But why? So when we look at these and we clear up our playing field of what we're putting into our body and on our body, because what we put on our body goes in our body, we can start seeing changes. So if you like this video, wherever you're watching it from, on any of the multimedia that I might post this on, please like and share and follow along for more. I have a feeling I might be sharing some more of these lovely ingredients that are good to know about. Yeah. So that you can make the conscious choice of what you want to do. Yeah. What feels good for you. But then you have the choice because you have the knowledge. Without the knowledge, there isn't really a choice. Consider that one. Okay, so much love and Stardust. Thanks for watching today, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.